All right. All right, what's up, guys? I'm Toosdae, your realtor. Save my number as Toosdae. This is Mark Silva. Tell them about who you work for and what you do.
Yeah, I'm with Fairway Independent Mortgage out of San Dimas, and we do mortgage loans for single family, 2 to 4 units, owner occupied, investment properties, second homes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome.
So it's a great business and good time to be in it. So looking forward to today. We're here at Boba, which I've never been at before,
right.
So we're looking forward to trying that.
To try some boba.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's get, you said you had a presentation that you looked at. Talk about the presentation a little bit.
Yeah, it was a rent versus buying presentation that one of my buddies at the office was doing for a client of his. And she was kind of hesitant on buying. She's renting right now. I think she's paying about just under $4,000 a month for rent. And she was thinking about buying this house for $800,000. And so he did his presentation. She was kind of hesitant because she thought that she could save a lot of money renting over buying. But from what I can tell from this presentation, it really is the opposite. Even though she may have, in this particular case, she was thinking about buying a house for $800,000. And I think she wanted to put down about $60,000 or so down payment.
That could be an FHA loan, or even or a conventional 3% or something.
Conventional.
Right? 800 is past the limit.
Correct. Right. And even though her payments, you can see in this example here, her payments are about $5,900 per month, including taxes and insurance, and her rent was only $4,000. So it seems to her that her rent would be a better idea for her to rent instead of purchasing. However, if you spread that over a long period of time, if you spread that over, let's say 9 years, like this presentation does, if you just compare the apples to apples, payment to payment, it would seem apparent that it would be in her best interest to rent, because it saves her about just under $90,000 over that time period. And that's
if you're renting.
That's considering that your rent is going to increase, which the average is about 6% per year. Home ownership is going to stay the same. So over the long term, over 9 years, it looks like she's going to save like $90,000 by renting. But when you analyze it further, when you figure what it is, what the appreciation on the home, based on what statistics have been, her appreciation that she was going to realize, her appreciation gain is about $400,000, just under $397,000 over a 9-year period, and that's based on a 4.5% appreciation rate, which is about what it averages here in California.
That's actually conservative, because I think it used to be like 8%. It used to be, but right now with the run up that we had, that percentage went down a little bit, so 4% is probably good.
Exactly. So she's got an appreciation gain that she didn't take into consideration. Not only that, when you finance a home, you're paying off a mortgage. So she's also realizing additional gain in the form of amortization. Her balance is going down. And her amortization gain in that 9-year period on this example, based on the terms that he gave her, her amortization gain is about $92,000, which can be added to that $397,000.
This is probably a good time to add last time I couldn't come up with the name, but it's called inflation-induced debt destruction.
Right.
So that's what he's talking about. Every time you make a payment, right, part of that, or most of it at the beginning at least, goes to the interest rate, and there's a chunk of that goes to paying off the principal.
Correct.
And that's called inflation-induced debt destruction. That's what he's talking about. So after 10 years of paying off the house, then you randomly have $100,000 in equity. So that's you might be paying a little more on the mortgage side of things versus the rent, but that just makes up for it in a crazy way.
Right. And then in addition to that, rent, it's just a total waste of money. There's no tax benefit to renting at all.
Well, it's not for the owner though.
Not for the owner. If
not
you-
for the owner of the rental property.
Oh wait, not for the owner of the rental. That is true. That is correct. But for the tenant,
Yeah.
it's a total.
Yeah.
It's a total total loss money. It's just flushing money down the drain. On home ownership, though, you have there's a tax benefit involved. In this case, she was in about a 22% tax bracket, so her tax benefit for that over that 9-year period is about an additional $60,000.
So it'll help. Yeah, it's kind of like having a kid, like a dependent, a little bit, where
Correct.
it reduces what.
Correct. Yeah, I remember when I bought my first home, it was just my wife and myself, and the tax benefit back then, this is a long time ago, but I was claiming married with two allowances, and the tax benefit back then allowed me to claim married with 5 or 6 allowances, and my tax refund was about the same as if I was just renting.
Oh, wow.
So that tax benefit, I was able to take home more net income to help me afford that higher payment over renting, and that's where you can see it. In this case, it's about $60,000 additional tax benefit over that 9 years. Now, granted, there's going to be, when you buy a house, there's going to be closing costs. Closing costs, in this example that he sent to her, was $16,000 closing. And when she sells the property, there's going to be this assumes that your property is going to appreciate at a rate 4.5%. So in 9 years, your property is going to be valued, that $800,000 home will be valued at somewhere just under $1.2 million, which is about, in 9 years, about what it would be. There's going to be a cost to sell that home. He figured about $71,000, which is standard basic 6%, which is not necessarily the case, but could be. Bottom line is that after 9 years, when you really compare the true apple to apples, renting over home ownership, she would gain about $373,000 by buying that house, after considering the appreciation gain, the amortization gain, and the tax benefits over the lower rent. Even though the homeowner purchasing that will have to pay closing costs to purchase and also the sale. Still, the net gain is about $373,000. Not bad for 9 years investment.
I want to.
You
I
can't
want to
get
break
that
it
on
down.
Wall Street, I don't think.
Yeah. You can if you're a politician, maybe,
Right.
and you know what laws are going to change.
Right.
So,
Right.
But
Right.
I want to break it down, make it a little simpler.
Sure.
So we're talking about if you're making a rent payment, right? You're not getting any of that back. You can't write that off. The principal, the money that you owe on the property, that doesn't go down because it's not your loan.
Right.
You're basically just paying a rental fee to stay in the place for a month or whatever, or you're paying every 6 months or whatever. Usually it's a month. But when you buy the house, every time you make the payment, right, the principal, which is the money that you owe, that gets reduced. So every time it gets reduced, that means you have more equity because the value of the house. This is the value of the house, and you owe this much. And every time you pay, what you owe gets smaller, and what you own bigger and bigger. So that's one part. When you do your taxes, and you pay, you can write off, I think, interest. You can write off insurance, property taxes,
Mortgage insurance, actually.
mortgage insurance.
Right.
So
Not
this is all
insurance,
stuff
but
that you can mortgage insurance.
Right.
So this is all stuff that you can write off. So say you got a tax bill where you got to pay $500, and you got all these other bills that you're paying $1,000. You'll be able to offset that. And instead of giving it to the government, you don't give it to them, and it covers that cost. And what was the other? What am I missing? The principal pay down.
Appreciation.
The appreciation. Okay, so the principal goes down. The appreciation, the value of your asset goes up. So the equity grows exponentially. I guess you can say it that way.
Right.
That part, and also if there's that part, and say you buy a house and you rent it out, and you got a little profit, couple $100, $1,000. That's also another thing you can add on top of that. So there's different. It's kind of like owning a business a little bit, really. If you got it right, I feel like if you look at it that way, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, buying a house is actually a really good investment, at least here in California. I mean, throughout the years, sure, we go through times where there may be small corrections. It always rebounds. It's never been more apparent than it is right now. I mean, back when I first got into business, back in the back in the late 70s, early 80s, homes were going for 100, beautiful homes were going for $100,000. The same homes these days are going for 1.5.
Now, what area? You're talking about like Orange County, or you're talking
I'm
about
Los Angeles County? I'm thinking about where
100 grand back. What?
Yeah.
How long ago? It was a nice.
Back, yeah.
That's
yeah.
a nice. That's like $1 million today.
Yeah, it's more than that actually.
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
What was your interest rate?
Back then, on my first home, actually it was it 9.5%?
9.5%.
I got my first house, FHA 9.5%.
So what can you give people now? So,
Actually, the interest rates are a lot better than that.
right?
Because I remember when I first got in business, mortgage rates were up around. FHA was going for, I think it was 17.5% interest rate, FHA, and several points. And then conventionals were up around 21%. So paying
Well, did you use an FHA loan when you first bought your house?
Yes, I did.
No way. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, but back when I bought my first house, it was 9.5%.
Oh, okay.
So it was a little bit cheaper back then. But yeah, back when interest rates got a little bit too out of hand, back when it was 16.5% for an FHA, yeah, people weren't doing a lot of that type of financing. People were doing different types of financing.
Do you remember what kind of down you did?
What's that?
Well, you remember what kind of down you did on that?
On my first home?
Yeah.
3.5%.
3.5%.
Yes, it's always been the same.
3.5% FHA.
Right. And they didn't even have any down payment assistance programs like I've got nowadays. We got the state of California, the CalHFA program, which gives down payment assistance to help people get in the first home. If you haven't owned a home in the last, you could actually, if you could have owned a home previously, as long as you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years with CalHFA. Golden State Finance Authority, GSFA for short, similar type deal. The down payment assistance. They both work very similar, but a little bit different. Qualifying's a little bit different.
They both have to be first-time home buyers, like not owned in the past 3 years.
Correct.
Oh,
correct. Yeah. So they're good programs. I use them quite a bit. So.
Well, you were telling us about the different types of loans. Actually, let's cut this one and then we'll record another one. I'll make sure it's working.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's still recording. Good.